fatal heart impacts, past painful scars. In fact, I blast tasteful bars and pass. I back up my actions, fact don't ask, grab reactions, jacked attack with every word, then act with class as they hear me snap. I got nothing to lose, cause I fought and felt the bruise. Now I'm not the one confused, call the shots and they produce. I ain't lost, I'm finally loose. Pick a new silver excuse, I need the views to boost me to a new abuse of being used. Everybody wants a piece now, y'all can rest in peace now. You're dead to me, so peace out. Remember, you're discreet out. Get ready for defeat now.
Alrighty, hello everybody. This is Kira's show here, and now. This series, what if Deku had a Zenkai Boost? Or what if Deku could get Zenkais? I'm going to be trying to make this series a bit different than what I have seen some people do with it. Now, with that being said, I'm releasing this series early because I've been thinking about it a lot today. And well, I'd rather release it earlier rather than later, and at least have a part to it out than people requesting it a lot. Now, with that being said, let us begin with Hasashi and Midoriya. Hasashi, he has a super strength quirk, and it actually is very, well, powerful. Then there is Midoriya, his wife, of 2 years. Her quirk is a very strange medical anomaly. In fact, you could call it an adaptation quirk. However, it's a bit of a delay. Basically, her quirk only ever works after it's happened. If she gets a cut on her finger, her body won't adapt to basically seal the wound. Her body will heal normally in that area that was hurt, or that entire, well, part of her hand will be a lot more resistant to damage. Now, with that being said, she also has at least noticed that muscle tendons do feel a little bit stronger. And this does mean that she does at least have some power on her herself. Now, Hasashi and Midoriya, they, whenever these two got married, decided to move away from the big city lifestyle. Because Inko, she was concerned about villains. She's been caught up in a numerous amount of villain attacks before. And her quirk has taken effects. Now, this does mean that she's actually somewhere around or almost on par with Hasashi when it comes to physical strength. And her durability is actually nothing to scoff at. In fact, well, her durability, let's just put it as, if you were to throw a hand grenade directly at her, and all of that force in the grenade was pushed at her in that direction, and she was able to fly through 3 walls, she can get up and only have a few cuts and scratches. Now, that does not sound very powerful compared to what we would hear in the regular MHA world, but in the normal world, that's fucking insane. Now, with that being said, Hasashi did quit his job at that area, or at the office place that he would usually work at. And in this small little village, or you could really call it a smaller city, where it's more local and farmland, he actually did get a job as a farm hand. And he actually does do enough work to where the man who is his boss, did actually have to let some other people go. Now, Hasashi's basically able to do the work of 5 different men. And as long as the guy does pay him double or triple, Hasashi will do anything the guy does need. Meaning that Masashi, I was gonna say, what the hell? Hasashi, he does bring home a lot of money. And the guy who does hire Hasashi, or who is his boss, is actually saving money at the same time. Now, with that being said, eventually Izuku is born into this life, and they don't really know what his quirk would be. Now, they did have to actually go to their local doctor, and the doctor actually was the one who delivered Midoriya. It was not found that he had super strength whenever he was born, and the doctor did feel like he had a stroke of luck with that. Because with this kid not being able to regulate his quirk, whenever he did grab the baby, and it did actually grab him by his hand or his wrist, it probably would have crushed something. Now, Izuku, he was then later taken home, and Inko, while she was resting up, she actually did increase in durability and in strength during this time. Along with that, Hisashi actually was able to take some time off from his boss and spend it with his wife. Now, with that being said, we will cut to around 4 years later, where Izuku, Midoriya, he actually is going to the local school and talking with a bunch of people who are from all around. Everyone's wondering about their quirks. Now, with that being said, everybody does wonder about what type of quirks they'll have. Some kids have already awakened their strange abilities. This one kid, he can, well, actually summon fire. And use it to, well, actually shoot around. There's even one kid who actually does have a light manipulation type of quirk. They're not really too sure. They can basically, well, shoot beams of light. And then there are actually some more kids who do have weirder and weirder abilities. One kid can turn his hands into stone, one kid can, well, turn his body into goo, one kid can even do these things and these things. All of them do have either flashy or strange quirks that no one really understands. And then it's Izuku's turn. Him just standing up and talking about how he doesn't know what his quirk is yet. And about how his family hasn't really had the time to actually go into the city and go to a proper doctor. Now, with that, he would then sit back down. Other kids basically either saying like, oh yeah, this is my quirk because it's not a physical mutation, or it's the same story as Izuku. Now, with that being said, there is whenever Hisashi does actually request a day off from his job. And him and Inko do actually go into the city and actually get Midoriya tested. And the doctors, they do have some good news for Hisashi and, well, Izuku. Basically trying to explain to them that he does have a quirk, and that it does seem to be similar to Inko's. Now, Inko, she is kind of worried about that. And she does ask the doctor if it'd be possible to know more about this. Now, some more tests are performed on Izuku. And well, yeah, not really much is learned. However, they do have basic understandings about the quirk. Apparently, Midoriya will be able to get stronger the more he's hit, or the more he's really hurt. Now, with that, Inko, she immediately leaves the hospital, and Hisashi and Izuku do actually leave it behind her. As they do actually leave, well, they encounter one of the things Inko has not wanted to be in the city for: a villain attack. Now, there actually is a villain who, let's say he's throwing around Earth. He is picking up chunks of Earth with his quirk and throwing them around at heroes, along with actually just trying to get away from pros. Now, the police are also trying to take down this man, as they are firing bullets at him, but he does just throw up walls of Earth. and he does actually look around, as he does actually go to do something to distract the heroes. He would actually just pull the top of a building off, or pull the wall of the building out so it will just start falling towards the ground. And the pros will be preoccupied trying to save heroes. Now, the pros will be preoccupied trying to save civilians, not heroes. Anyways, now, with that being said, Hasashi, he actually is right there. As pro heroes, you try and rush in to help. One hero trying to use their quirk to blast away the rubble, and to finally chop it up. As Hasashi, he does just stand up and actually just get ready. Him bracing his body and bending his knees, as he does catch a large piece of the rubble as a pro hero actually does go to blast it out of his hands. Now, the moment he actually does do that, a large chunk of the rubble does actually fall behind Hasashi's head, and go to land on the back of, or land on Izuku. Now, Midoriya does feel this rubble actually hit him in his head. As he does go falling backwards, another piece would actually just fall down and land on one of his legs. Midoriya actually screaming in pain because of that happening. Now, the moment that Hasashi does actually hear that, he actually does do one thing. He gets angry and takes the piece of rubble that's still in his hands, a very large boulder, as he just begins to start swinging it over his head and moving his body, as he just tosses it straight to where the villain is. The moment that has actually happened, the large boulder goes smashing through the wall and hits the villain, as local heroes are then able to get in there and actually take the man down, along with Midoriya being taken to a hospital. Now, while they are actually at the hospital, Inko does just tell Hasashi that this is exactly why they should never come to these cities, or stay away from these areas. Hasashi arguing that they had to come here. And even then, they didn't know that a villain would be here today. So this is not their fault. This is all that man's fault. Inko not having a reasonable argument for that part. Now, doctors do reveal to Hasashi and Inko that Midoriya, he did actually fracture his skull. Whenever the rock landed, it actually did crack it, along with actually it breaking Midoriya's right kneecap. Now, the doctors do go on explaining that it also does appear that with Midoriya's quirk, he's actually beginning to heal a lot faster. This confusing Hasashi and Inko, as the doctor does continue on his explanation. Midoriya's body, it does seem to be getting physically stronger. In fact, all around, the boy was almost back on his feet already. Now, along with that, they actually do walk into Izuku's hospital room, as he is just laying down, and he does actually look over at his mom. Them actually watching as Midoriya, he does have his face bandaged, or his head bandaged, and his face visible, as he is just going to move his hand, and he does actually go to pick up a remote. The moment he does actually pick it up, the moment he closes his hand, he crushes it by accident, before bringing it up and looking at it, letting it go, and just looking up at his dad, talking about how he has the same quirk. Hasashi, seeing this, realizes that that's something. Now, Inko, she actually has asked the doctors when they'll be able to release Izuku. Doctors explain that within a few hours, actually, they believe that he'll be ready for a release. And then there is whenever they actually do leave the hospital later that night and head in, or head back to, their little place outside the city. Now, with that being said, we do have the next day where Midoriya, he actually has revealed to his class his quirk. Now, some kids don't really believe Midoriya about his ability. Others are skeptical about it. I mean, what kind of ability would you need to have, or what kind of ability would you need that if you just get the shit kicked out of you, you get stronger the next day? That makes no absolute sense. Now, kids do try and bully Midoriya about this. Now, because Zenkais are so fucking inconsistent, I'm just gonna say, oh yeah, Deku gets either this much stronger or this much stronger. Now, with the amount of strength Midoriya does possess at this current point, he is stronger than the average person. In fact, it is superhuman for his age, along with his durability. Now, with that, there also is the fact that I did actually add on a bit more to Midoriya's quirk, or what the Zenkai Boost can do to a person. Now, since Deku is not a Saiyan and he can't just pull out bullshit that he can survive from, like if I get blasted in the heart and I can just take a sensu bean, I'll be fine. Yeah. One thing I am added that Izuku will be able to actually have increased healing abilities to his body. That way I can just make the series a bit more interesting with the way things do work. Now, with that being said, a few of the kids don't really buy Izuku's story about this all. And there actually is, during recess, roughly a week later, where everyone actually is out and playing in the countryside. A few kids talking about how they don't really buy Izuku's whole story, and how they should actually test to see if he's so much stronger. Now, the kid who does actually have the rock hands or the rock quirk is the first one to approach Midoriya. And they actually do want to test Midoriya's ability, talking about how they want to spar or at least try and fight Midoriya to see if he really is strong. Now, Midoriya does say okay. And the moment that actually just happened, the kid actually just moved forwards and go to slam their fist outwards at Midoriya, actually knocking him across the face as Midoriya, he actually does turn and try and throw at his own hand. Now, after that does actually happen, the kid does actually take the hit and is surprised, having the wind knocked out of them as they actually do try and hit Midoriya directly in the gut once again. Now, eventually it does just boil down to, since they really don't know how to fight, just, well, slap boxing essentially. Now, with that being said, the kids are eventually found and pulled apart, where a teacher is trying to explain to them that they shouldn't do that to Izuku. And Midoriya trying to explain to the teacher that they were just messing around, they were playing, that was it. The teacher obviously not buying it since Midoriya has a few cuts on his body. Now, Midoriya, he actually is patched up by the school teacher, and then he is allowed to go home. As Midoriya would arrive, there is Inko, who does ask Izuku about what happened. Midoriya trying to explain that he wanted to show off his quirk to everyone. Izuku, your quirk is very dangerous. But Mom, I get stronger. Plus, besides, my cut's already closed. Huh? She does say. Midoriya actually bring off the band-aid on his face. And Inko does actually see that the wound is basically almost healing right before her eyes. Now, she is confused about all of this. Izuku's quirk. It's got something to do with the way his body does work. The more damage he takes on, he heals faster the next time he gets hurt. And he gets a power increase similar to her own. Now, this is very interesting to Inko. And she actually does, well, start keeping notes about this. As we actually have Hisashi, who does come home later that day and find out about exactly what happened. Hisashi trying to explain to his son what actually had happened. That those kids, they didn't want to train or spar with Izuku. What happened was they wanted to beat him up. And that they don't really believe him about how strong his quirk really is. And I'm telling Izuku that they can actually start training him on his weekends off. And that quite possibly he can actually show him what it is like to get a bit stronger. Plus, whenever he is older, that is whenever they can actually really start getting more and more into training. Now, Izuku, he does agree with his father to this, and he still does want to at least try out his quirk more. Apparently, he gets stronger the more he's hurt, so him just being a reckless kid could actually help him in the long run. However, right now, it's just gonna worry his parents. And there actually is whenever he does go back to school. People still are skeptical about Midoriya, but as the years will go on, they will eventually learn that Midoriya is nothing to scoff at. Now, with that being said, I do hope you guys enjoyed, and have an amazing day. Catch you guys in the next part.